Hello, class. I did my presentation and my signature assignment on corrections officers and their roles in the criminal justice system. And my name is Hunter Peck. So, education and job training. Typically, corrections officers need a high school degree or a GED, but a higher level of education is always preferred, and typically they also prefer it if it's a degree in something like criminal justice or something related to law or that kind of thing. For job training, there's academy training, which is where they'll teach you how to do types of martial arts, things like submissions and pain compliance, which is just making prisoners comply through pain but not actually harming anyone, because you can't actually harm the prisoners, obviously. There's physical training and testing because the job is very physically demanding, and they need to make sure you're fit and able to do the job. And then typically there's also additional training from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, which is required sometimes. Job duties. Correctional officers let prisoners out for recreation, meals, other similar things like that, where they are out of their cells and that kind of thing. They send prisoners to solitary confinement, collect their personal belongings, that kind of thing. They search, pat downs, cell searches, all kinds of that. Just monitoring the prisoners overall, that kind of thing, is all part of their job. Their salaries are based off of location, agency, and level of experience. So a correctional officer starting at the Idaho State Corrections Institution makes about $24 an hour typically. But if you work for a prison in California or some other state or correctional institution, the starting pay could be different, could be higher, could be lower. So it really just depends on where. It also depends on where you are in the prison. So if you are assigned to a more difficult or more dangerous cell block, you typically get paid more. And there's other things that come along with that. And there's level of experience, of course. If you've been there for a while, then you get paid more through promotions and raises. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the median wage for corrections officers in 2024 was $57,970 or $27.86. For an example of a promotion, sergeants at the ISCI make about $30 an hour. So you get promoted based on experience and how long you've been there. Working conditions. The person I interviewed, who is a correctional officer at the prison, works 12-hour shifts, 4 days a week and then 5 days a week to keep that around 80 hours. There is overtime sometimes, but it's not that common. It's very physically demanding. You have to be on your feet all day. You have to walk around. You have to be able to subdue and protect yourself from prisoners if the need arises, that kind of thing. It's very stressful because you're in a prison. You have to deal with constant dangers and from multiple different sources. So it's pretty stressful. And then along with that, there's the mental health impact because it's very stressful. You're in a prison for 12 hours a day, multiple days a week, every week. So it's very draining on your mental health because studies have shown that it's not just the prisoners that suffer from mental health effects from working or from being in prisons. Correctional officers suffer very similar mental health issues. Even though they are free, they still are in a dangerous, stressful environment. So, safety concerns. Prisoners are one of the biggest safety concerns for correctional officers. Obviously, if the prisoners are acting strange or under mental distress, they are even more dangerous, and you have to learn how to handle that and deal with that. But you're in a prison with people who most of the time don't like you or, want to stay away from you. So there's always the danger from the prisoners. There's also drug exposure in the prisons, typically during searches of either cells or prisoners themselves, because prisoners smuggle in drugs and you search the cells and you can get drugged pretty easily, not commonly, but not uncommonly either. The person I interviewed told me that one of the most surprising things he experienced in the first few months he was there was a correctional officer that had been there for a while got exposed to lethal doses of fentanyl searching a prisoner's cell, and they had to be transported to the hospital and resuscitated. They did make a full recovery and are back working in the prison, in the correctional institution. But it is always a danger, and you have to make sure you're mindful of where you are and what you're doing, and be safe. Expectations of being a correctional officer. You have to maintain security and order in the prison, among the prisoners, the correctional officers, everyone. Make sure everything's in order. You have to supervise the inmates, whether that be through manually supervising them or mainly through cameras watching over them. You have to enforce the rules and regulations of the prison, and just all the rules and regulations that everyone has to follow. You have to make sure they're being followed within the prison, among the prisoners and the correctional officers, because correctional officers can become corrupt and smuggle in contraband like cell phones or drugs into the prison. So you have to be mindful of that. You have to, most importantly, keep yourself safe, keep the prisoners safe, keep everyone safe in the prison. It's dangerous sometimes in there. The role of prisons in the criminal justice system are to ensure punishments are carried out properly, humanely, and properly and humanely are the main ones. Like, if without correctional officers, the whole system wouldn't really function between sentencing and imprisonment, rehabilitation, punishment. It wouldn't work because there's no one to enforce if punishments were carried out correctly, humanely, or properly in general. So they're very important to our criminal justice system. They also help rehabilitate prisoners, even if not directly stated in their job requirements. They still do it, even unconsciously. I also help prisoners get to programs to help them rehabilitate, like education in prison or that kind of thing. Prison guards are a direct link between the prisoners and those systems and programs. They also document everything that happens in the prisons, like violence or contraband or anything like that, which is tied into the criminal justice system, because those documents will help charge someone with a new crime they committed while in prison, or the opposite, and make them not guilty of a crime. Just documenting everything that happens. And then they work with other members of the criminal justice system, like judges, police officers, child care workers, everyone really, to ensure that everything runs smoothly, the prisoners are taken care of properly, and that they can function in society once they're out of prison, and hopefully they're rehabilitated and don't recommit crimes. But that was all. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something about correctional officers, and hopefully this can help anyone interested in going into that career with what they should expect and how it works on a surface level. Yeah, thank you.